Sammy Keyes, the number 17, is Sammy Keyes and the Killer. I forgot to put on my jacket. Can't do a review without my jacket. The M stands for Michael and for mystery. Sammy Keyes number 17 is called Sammy Keyes and the Killer Cruise. I thought it was excellent. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10, or maybe an 8.5 out of 10. I'd have to reread it to really come to grips with some parts, because some parts it felt like the story dragged and maybe weren't entirely relevant. Now, any good mystery is going to have red herrings, and in fact, that was kind of a funny joke when they have dinner with the captain and Sammy tries red herring and she's like, oh, this is kind of decent. And that probably is one of those scenes that, arguably could have been cut from the book. I'm not remembering the exact relevance of that particular scene. Other scenes you could argue are the scenes with Sammy and her father, which aren't related to the mystery, but they are related to the emotional core of the story, which is Sammy getting to know her father. Like, this is really our first introduction to her father. And, it is sweet how, she starts the book saying, no, he's Darren. I can't call him dad. And, slowly gives up on that over the course of the book. And that was sweet. And I like seeing Sammy's emotional transformation. But, the hardcore mystery people are gonna be saying, it's so boring. She went on a cruise excursion. Another thing hardcore mystery people might say is that it's formulaic in terms of how the suspects are handled. I just read Nancy Drew Files number 106, and it does a similar thing where it's like, okay, there's a death scene, then Nancy searches the room of suspect number 1, and then we have like the cliffhanger death scene, and then Nancy searches the room of suspect number 2, and then the cliffhanger death scene, Nancy searches the room of suspect number 3. Very formulaic in that every other chapter we had the big scene with the suspects. And, it's not the only Nancy Drew book where she goes through each suspect in turn and gets 1 to 2 pieces of circumstantial evidence about the particular suspect she's looking into at a time. And I noticed this book did something similar with the various Kensingtons. Like, okay, Bradley got one big scene, and then the married couple, they got one big scene, and Noah got one big scene, that sort of thing. It kind of we go through all of them in turn, whereas, like in real life, she probably would have run into JT, like twice instead of like meeting all 5 groups separately in a row. It's not really in a row though, but the point still stands. It's kind of, we made sure to hit all the 5 of the various suspects. We gotta make sure to visit all of them in turn, before the big reveal. So, she did spend a lot of time with Kip. Obviously, Kip was the main character that she was investigating with. And JT, she kind of met with him like twice. He was terrible. Actually, like 3 times. This guy I hated JT. Thumbs down. Terrible character. I think you're supposed to hate him. Okay, so why did I mention hardcore mystery fans like 3 times? Because this book is supposed to be like a hardcore mystery book, like the classic mystery books of old. And that's what all the descriptions said. They said it's a locked room murder mystery. The author is paying homage to the famous mysteries of old, like Death on the Nile, which I'm not going to review on this channel because the Agatha Christie lawyers came after my YouTube channel, so I'm just not touching anything she's ever written. There are references to other famous mystery people, like the waiters are named like Arthur and Conan after Arthur Conan Doyle. And then Dashiell Spade is the neighbor, which is obviously Dashiell Hammett and Sam Spade. And I am pointing this out. Oh, also somebody's doing a jigsaw puzzle, and I knew it was Edgar Allan Poe, The Mystery of the Gold Bug, which is a famous mystery. I've done a review for that one. Edgar Allan Poe's lawyers have not come after me. But I have book club questions for this book, just like the previous one. And the 5th one was, what references to famous books and writers did you notice? Those are the ones I noticed. Yeah. Let's see. There were like two more which felt like references to famous mysteries. Harald, but I didn't look that one up. And then Agatha Christie gets name dropped too. Okay. With the mystery, one of the mysteries is that there is a message that needs to be decoded, and that's why it's cute to have a reference to Edgar Allan Poe's, the Golden Bug story, because that was the first one with a major decoding messages thing. So, that worked. And it is actually like a clever coded message that readers can solve on their own. I was really hoping that would be the case, and that it wouldn't be one of those coded messages where it shows up in the first half of the book and there's a clue like 90% of the way through the book, and you needed that clue in order to solve the cipher, as it were. But no, it's like you could technically solve it in the first half if you tried really, really hard. Yeah, I thought it was very cleverly done. I don't want to give spoilers. Okay. Stepping back, so it's supposed to be this classic locked room murder mystery, and that's specifically what the description of the book said when I picked it up. It's like classic locked room whodunit, and so I kept waiting for the locked room murder mystery to appear. And like 2/3 of the way through the story, I'm like, where's the locked room? Excuse me, hello? There is none. So that was an inaccurate description of the book. And I did check online, and yeah, that's one of the standard descriptions of the book, classic locked room whodunit. So I'm like, oh no, 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 because that led me astray. So, the actual premise of the book is sort of like the Adam Sandler movie, Murder Mystery, where you've got a bunch of rich people, and there's a will, the will that's going to be read, and all of grandfather's money is going to be not given to anybody. Not given to anybody. In fact, it's going to be used to build a hospital in Africa. Yeah, and so we've got all these rich people that we're planning on inheriting, and they're really mostly terrible people, except for Kip, who's an adopted son and is not a blood relative. Maybe that's the reason why he's not terrible. He's also like a teenager, though, so all the other people are older, except for JT, who's sort of like a teenager around the same age as Kip. But like all the other people who could stand to inherit are much older. They're adults. They're in their like 40s and 50s, I think. And so that was definitely the setup of Murder Mystery. It's like, oh man, we're gonna have some murdering, otherwise nobody's gonna inherit, basically. And so it is murder grandma ends up being the solution. So grandma disappears, and some people are worried, some people are not worried, and everybody gets this secret coded message. And I feel like there was too much of a gap between the coded message and the grandma disappearing. That's something I would maybe criticize the book for, because it turns out the mystery is more like a Westing game, where there are clues and puzzles hidden in the will. So everybody's gathered together to read the will, and they have to solve the mystery and the clues and the puzzles hidden in the will. But in this case, it's it's like this hidden message got sent out to everybody. Secret coded message. Whoever decodes the message first wins the puzzle. That person gets to inherit everything. And I feel like this book would have been different if that had been spelled out from the very start. Like, whoever decodes this message first inherits. Like, that would give a very different flavor of the book. And that actually kind of is how it works. So Kip does... I don't think Kip does not manage to solve it. But it's sort of like Kip manages to solve it. I'm trying not to spoil it. I'm sorry. But the big twist, like halfway through, or say 2/3 of the way through, is when Kip disappears, and now we've got a second disappearance. Oh no! And, if we had known that the premise is everybody needs to solve the decoded message in order to inherit, the first one, and that definitely is how it feels at the end when Sammy's figured it out, and she kind of announces it to all the Kensingtons, and they're in a race to get to the location that the clue refers to, because everybody wants to be the first one there. That sort of has shades of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, actually. Or Rat Race, which is the remake of that movie. Still, like, if Sammy had known from the beginning that it is a mystery, that we're trying to be the first one to solve the decoded message, then she wouldn't have misread Kip's disappearance as somebody tried to murder Kip. And that's what she thinks of it as. And, like, I don't know what to do about that. Like, it is a really good thing that Sammy thinks Kip has been murdered. That's really dramatic. But at the same time, I feel like realistically, like, if I died and left a puzzle in my will for everybody to solve, then I would have, like, let people know it was a puzzle. Of course, then again, in the Westing game, half and half. You could say he halfway lets people know there's a puzzle in the will. It's not the puzzle. You have to be clever to solve the puzzle in the will. He leaves them red herrings. But, like, I feel like the coded message probably should have been delivered to everybody at, like, the reading of the will, that big scene, really. I think the book did a good job of explaining who all the Kensingtons are, because we've had, like, the 5 distinct groups. Probably, you know, they all play Clue. They play Clue with the members of the Kensington family, and that's probably a good enough way as any to have readers remember who all the Kensingtons are. I did like the scenes where Sammy, like, kind of had to explain it to her father of what's going on, and he's like, you know what, you're gonna have to explain it to me multiple times because you're jumping around a bit, and it's like, I'm not going to be able to remember all these characters. I did like Sammy's dad more than Marco. Marco kind of annoyed me. He feels just like Billy, and Marissa even says at one point he's acting just like Billy and Casey, that the two adults are. I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. And I think I said earlier, there are scenes where they have cruise excursions. I really did like the setting, though. Like, it made me wish I was on a cruise. Boy, would that be fun. That's irrelevant. I don't need to daydream about cruises. So, book is very self-contained, I guess, in that there are no real other Sammy Keyes characters. It's just Sammy and Marissa, and her dad, who we've not really met before, right? And so that's it. Those are, like, all the major characters. So it is a very self-contained story. Like, you don't have to read all the other Sammy Keyes books in order to pick this one up. I feel like that might have been a problem for the other Sammy Keyes books. Like, Sammy does try to explain the situation for every newcomer, but it really does feel like this is a book where you can't, unlike Nancy Drew, you can't really just pick up at any volume. You do kind of have to read them in order. There's a couple of books you can skip, but yeah. I don't want to give big spoilers for the ending, but thought it was good. I thought something else was going to happen with the puzzle lady. I'm not still... I mean, leave a comment if you know what was up with the puzzle lady, because, you know, I saw somebody say maybe the puzzle lady was going to be someone in disguise. And it doesn't seem like that was the case. Like, the puzzle lady is just a mystery writer. And the puzzle lady likes just trying to solve the puzzle. The puzzle's a metaphor for a mystery, by the way, where you have to put all the pieces together, but you don't have a picture. So solving a mystery is like solving a jigsaw puzzle when you don't know the exact picture, what you're trying to make. You're just trying to fit pieces together. And some of the pieces, like, they clearly fit together, but they don't seem to match the rest of the picture. Like, here's a picture of a tree, and these pieces together form a skull. What's up with that? Do they fit together? No, they can't. That's so weird. Now, yeah, clever metaphor for mystery, and the woman ends up being a mystery writer. Now, I totally thought, now this is just my totally crazy idea, is that some jigsaw puzzle companies have, like, preset puzzle pieces, and so you can take, like, the left half pieces of puzzle A and then put them into a box with puzzle B, and they will totally fit together because the pieces are the exact same shapes. Just the pictures on them are different. And I thought that's what the book was going to go for. So, like, a quarter of the pieces were from a completely different puzzle, and that's why they didn't match each other very well. But no, that's not it. Yeah, and I don't want to give spoilers for the big dramatic ending. I thought it was pretty well done, and yeah, liked it. I like the ending. If I had not been expecting a locked room murder mystery, I probably would have come up with that ending. I probably would have been able to guess at what happened. Maybe, like I said, my mind would have gone straight to like Westing Game or Murder Mystery, which are more comparable to the premise of this book than I think Locked Room Murder Mystery is. Okay, so I have my book club questions. Sammy and her dad were both pretty nervous about this cruise. How much do you think it helped for them each to have a friend along? I think it really helped. I actually do think it helped. Like, Sammy had some good times with Marissa, and like Marissa's leaving for Ohio in the next book, which is the last book too, and that's very sad. And this book kind of like touches on that and builds up with it. That's very dramatic too. It's like, it's not like Sammy's going to replace Marissa in her heart with her new father, right? Oh yeah, and Sammy has a new living situation. Apparently she's been living at Hudson's. She's been staying in a bed in his house, and Graham's is slowly like transitioning into living in the Hudson's house. As Sammy and her father get to know each other, they start to realize how much they've both missed. Is there any way to catch up on all that lost time? I really did like his little speech at the end, saying it's like, gosh, it's a two-edged sword. It's like, really wish I had been there for all of your life, but you would have been a totally different person if I had been there for your entire life, and I like you the way you are now, and, as a stepfather, I feel the same way. It's a very accurate summary. I do kind of wish, it's like, oh, I wish I'd met my wife when we were in high school or college or something instead of getting married later in life, but then our lives would be totally different. Silly thing. I went to an all-boys school, and a part of me wonders, like, what would have been like if I had gone to a co-ed school? Because I probably would have been a lot different, right? Would have had more exposure to dealing with girls and stuff like that. And my father-in-law's like, yeah, it's like, okay, you'd be different, yeah. You just would mess up in different ways, that's all. I'm like, is that a compliment, or is that really deep? I prefer to think it's like, that's deep. One thing Sammy's dad learns about her the hard way, she can't leave a mystery alone. What do you think he makes of that? I think he likes that because, he is the same way. Like, he's all in on trying to solve this mystery and help her. I think what bothers him is that, her spending time with boys, because she spends so much time with Kip in this mystery. And then, like, when he finds out afterwards that she had big scene in the royal suite where she kind of like traps somebody on the balcony because she's worried she's going to be the next victim, and she's like traps somebody on the balcony, jumps to another balcony, puts up a screen, dives underneath it, and uses a distraction, uses the grandfather's urn as a distraction, which is crazy times. And having that like explained to him, he's like, I could see why your grandma gets so upset with you sometimes. I liked his reaction. So Sammy's life may be messy, but the Kensington families is even messier. What happened to get them here? Do you think they'll be able to change? I really feel like they were kind of mean and nasty and snooty because it is an homage to like classic mysteries, like murder mystery. Everybody's got to be snobby and mean. Everybody's got to be mean and greedy enough and has to want the victim dead enough for them to be a potential suspect. That's just sort of how mysteries work. If you've read mysteries where like somebody, like, I don't like mysteries where like a character like has no motive but is considered a major suspect anyway. And like, why is this person a major suspect? Now, half the time it seems to be like, oh, there's a secret motive, and once we learn that, we understand why that person's a suspect. I don't know. Do you think the Kensingtons will be able to change? I really don't think so. I think they're gonna try, but I'm not sure it's gonna work, especially with the stuff that happened with Marissa and her dad trying to change and how that was just flat out no. But you know, Heather has been trying to change, and that was a yes. That was a change that happened incrementally and slowly. So I'm not sure where this book is going to land. There's only one more book in the series. I don't think we're going to hear about the Kensingtons again. So already read this one. She meant it to be author meant it to be an homage to classic mysteries. Did you catch some of the references? Yes. If you were to scribble on your best friend's high tops, what might you write or draw? And that was something that made me really want to go back and reread all the Sammy Keyes books, is because Casey wrote like references to all the previous mysteries on Sammy's shoes. And it's like, oh, I want to kind of go back and see what those all are. Like one of them, just like, oh, that was a reference to the book with the condors. And I'm like, oh, I kind of forget everything about that book, except there was a really long time camping in the woods. I can't tell you. It was a really long time camping in the woods. And then I think it did have the character who was treated as a major suspect and then just doesn't appear again. Yeah. Okay, so those are my thoughts on Sammy Keyes and the Killer Cruise. Great book. Really excellent book. I did have some suggestion for changes. As you said, I think it was just misleading to call it a locked room murder mystery, really. Like, I thought if it had been, like, clear from the start, whoever solves the puzzle inherits first, I think that might have been the way I would have presented that story. But, you know, it's just my opinion. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think of this book, and I'll see you again next month for the final book of the series. And it looks like it's going to be sad, because I got a preview of this book, and it said, oh, hey, somebody killed Sammy. She was pushed off the third-story balcony, and then now she's in a coma, and she's probably going to die. And the mystery is other people besides Sammy have to solve the mystery. And it sounds like many of the culprits from previous books are going to be suspects in this one, because those are all people who have a grudge against Sammy. And like, that sounds really interesting and all at the same time really sad, because I don't want Sammy Keyes to die. And so I'll hope this is like the happy ending where she wakes up out of her coma at the very end. But it is called Goodbye because it's the final book. It has goodbye in the title. And yeah. Okay, so it's going to probably be a whirlwind next book, whereas this book was a bit more of a breather. I did like the emotional arc of Sammy getting to know her dad, but at the same time, it's like it was so removed from all the other Sammy Keyes characters. It does feel like a bit of a breather from the series, a bit of a rest before the big dramatic ending.